Good evening, ladies, gentlemen, droids, and aliens. Tonight on The Film Exorcist, we will be doing a very special episode for a good friend of mine, Tomasz Werhun, who I met on Star Wars discussions, who kind of seemed sad we were doing Solo first, so I decided to do Droids specially for him. So, thank you there, Tomasz. So, basically, this is the very first Star Wars cartoon done by George Lucas, ABC Family, and by Lucasfilms. And it came out in 1985, a bit after the fifth movie, Empire Strikes Back. It actually takes place between episode 3 and 4, and it focuses on our friends R2-D2 and C-3PO as somehow they get launched off the Tantive 4 and end up with a new master each arc, starting with 2 pod racers and a rebel spy, a prince and the nephew of a miner, and then and a trader or merchant who is trying to find his way in the world and create his legacy behind his father. And also the Great Heap, who, basically, guys, let me tell you right now, is basically how I feel about this whole TV show. I feel it's a great heap. It was directed by Raymond Jaffalis, Clive A. Smith, and Kenneth Stephenson. It was produced by Mickey Herman, George Lucas, and Peter Sauter. Written by Richard Bevan, Ben Burt, Paul Dini, Sharman DiVono, Joe Jostin, Gordon Kent, Michael Reeves, Peter Sauter, and Stephen Wright. Music by Patricia Cullen, David Greaney, and David W. Shaw. Cast: Anthony Daniels as C-3PO, R2-D2 as himself. Yeah, guys, they put him as himself. No actor, and it's weird. Don Franks as Jan-Tosh, Boba Fett, Kybo Ren-Cha, Winston Reckert as Seiss From, and Mungo Baba. We have Grammy Campbell as Proto-1, Admiral Terendel Screed, and Lord Toda. We have Peter MacNeil as Jord Desat, Tabora Johnson as Jessica Mead, John Stoker as Ulax Oncard, Greej Cha, and Solag. We have Rob Cowan as Val Joben, Dan Henzes as Jord Desat, Episode 3, Uncle Gundy, Jin Oba, Vinga, Yorpa, and Governor Kung. We also have Cree Summer as Princess Gurin, also known for Susie Carmichael in Rugrats, Number 5 in KND, Cleo in Clifford the Big Red Dog, and Princess Kaida in Atlantis, The Lost Adventure. To be clear, she was big in a lot of 90s to early 2000 cartoons, so I'm pretty sure a lot of you might have heard of her or heard her voice in a lot of good cartoons or movies. We have Long John Badri as Great Heap, Leslie Donaldson as Kia Mole, also known for Bernadette O'Hare in Happy Birthday to Me. Chris Wiggins as Mon Julpa. And that's basically it. And sadly, guys, we have no favorite episode or favorite season on this episode. So we're just going to move on to the facts. I'm sorry, I couldn't find any favorite episode. Honestly, I found a lot of the episodes plain and boring. It was paired with Ewoks, and it cost between $500,000 to $600,000 to produce both episodes, and it usually was an hour interval. First appearance of A-Wings, Desert Skiffs, and the Max Rebo Band, which I loved in episode 6. The droids had 4 owners throughout the series. It takes place between episode 3 and 4. The opening theme, In Trouble Again, was written and performed by Stuart Copeland from the Police. Yeah, don't get too excited. I mean, yeah, it makes sense for the droids to have a song called In Trouble Again because of every incident they get themselves into, but it doesn't really match Star Wars. The White Witch was named after the main antagonist of the fantasy novel The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Anthony Daniels is the only actor from the Star Wars trilogy. Gave us the first hint of Kylo Ren, Rey, and Jyn. And gave us the first wheel bike, which we see Grievous riding later on in the trilogy, and the original Boonta Eve race, which was basically speeders, where we're thinking of pod racers in episode 1 when we hear Boonta Eve. The Empire and its stormtroopers literally do not appear until the 10th episode, and then they're in it for the rest, which is pretty sad for a Star Wars show. Sadly, it's mostly pirates. First appearance of the Gladiator-class Star Destroyer, which you can actually play in the really great mod for Empire at War, or Thrawn's Revenge. It's actually an okay ship compared to many of the bigger ones. And we also first get our glimpse and meeting of Admiral Screed, who, if you don't know him, he's big in the MCU. He's been around since the Clone Wars, and yeah, this is the first time we meet him. And on to my opinion. Guys, honestly, it had terrible animation and designs compared to other shows in the 90s. I mean, yeah, it kind of looks like He-Man, the animation from that, or the old Transformers cartoons, but at least they had something to them, and they had more context, and their characters didn't move awkwardly, which I'm about to get to. Huge lack of blasters, unless you're the enemy and they're basically just a scanner gun like you'd see in your local store if you're trying to buy a product. Or they had a few pesticide dispensers. Yeah, that's basically what they look like in this. Or they've got blaster pikes, which the stormtroopers carry. You don't ever get to see an original E11 like you'd see in episode 4 or 5. You see no good blasters except for these cheap knockoff ones carried by the stormtroopers or the pirates. And none of the heroes think to carry a blaster ever, except for one episode when one of the racers finally decides to. And plus, you guys thought fucking Boba Fett's staff rifle was bad. Look at these. Way too many awkward movements from the droids. So many stupid used gadgets by R2-D2. I mean, you never see C-3PO sit down or move his arms or bend or do any more humane movements, but here, sadly, you do. It looks ugly, clunky, and it's not even like it's C-3PO. It's like if a person, or I don't know, an alien was wearing a C-3PO outfit and he just went off to do some gymnastics and speak multiple C-3PO lines. It just looked unnatural. Oh, and R2-D2, his legs can move. They don't have sockets. They're not attached to him. They can just move out or move anyway. It kind of looks like they're Scooby-Doo, basically. How Scooby-Doo would run or move or... I mean, and that was a good show. That works because that's a dog and real people. Here, it's two droids and a few normal people, not counting the aliens. And basically, the gadgets from R2-D2. I mean, come on, is this fucking Inspector Gadget? R2's got a blow-up raft, he's got, many awkward forms of goo to either catch a bad guy or, put out fire, or it just looks unnatural. And he never uses any of the gadgets we see in the movies, like his jet boosters or his little tool that he uses to open doors or open any console. We see none of that. And it looks, what we do get looks awkward. And again, it's like R2-D2 is the Inspector Gadget of this series. I mean, it's not my R2-D2 and not my C-3PO. Where have my C-3PO and R2-D2 gone? And in conclusion, it's actually outdated, ugly, and boring. And it doesn't need to exist. Honestly, I don't care what happened to the droids between episode 3 and 4. Nobody does. I mean, I guess they did it to kind of give an example of their first show next to Ewoks, which, don't get me started on Ewoks. Ewoks looks exactly like the Care Bears, but cheaper. And I liked the Care Bears when I was young. I didn't even watch Ewoks, and just from all the stories, it sounds like it's copying off of Care Bears. But, back to Droids. Droids, I was honestly bored with each episode. I did watch it, I was staring at the screen, but it got no laugh from me. Nothing. I was bored out of my mind, and I dreaded each night I had to watch these. I did not even give two shits about it. And like I was saying, we don't need a story about the droids. I mean, Rebels, which we'll get to next week, actually did it right. They gave us one episode of the droids. They were barely in it, unless they were translators or R2 was helping with the blasters or setting them off like bombs. But that's what you want from C-3PO and R2-D2. Not this clunky animation, not the awkward movements. You want them to stay in the background. You do not need R2-D2 and C-3PO as main characters in their own series. They are background characters. They should stay background characters. And it was honestly the most ugly animation I have ever seen. I mean, again, I compared it to He-Man, which for its time looked really good. I still wish I had the VHSs. I want to go back to it because it was fun and it was different each episode. This one is just 3 to 4 arcs that don't have anything to contribute to the honest-to-God Star Wars universe. And some of the characters were more boring in the trilogy. I mean, we've got Panda Baba, who, yeah, we've got our own story about, which I'm fine with. I was wondering why he was in the cantina. I was wondering how he gained the criminal enterprise he so gladly claims. But these, I don't care. I don't care about Kylo Ren. I mean, he's just a pirate that doesn't really do anything for the story. He's just hunting the droids because they saved him on from a mine explosion, and he's mad about the explosion. The Prince story has nothing to do with the main story, but that's why we have Rebels. Better animation, and Droids, I'm sorry, I hate. It was okay when it came out, despite all the grievances I have with it. It was a good first try, but this is why we don't let ABC take charge of a Star Wars series, and why George Lucas should have just done it himself. I mean, he did 3, that was interesting, and I enjoyed it. This, it's as bad, almost as bad as the Christmas special, which I will never review. I am not doing that. I am not doing Ewoks. I am not doing any of the Ewok movies, so please don't ask. But anything else you want, I will definitely do. Just ask. But for this, I'm giving it a 1, guys. A 1. It's god-awful, boring, and I never want to see it again. Never want to watch it again, and I just want to push it back into the archives of the expanded universe, deep where it belongs, behind everyone's memory. And this explains why I'm one of 2 people who have ever actually reviewed this. So yeah, good night, goodbye, and have a great night, and thanks, Tomasz. It was an interesting experience. Good night.